Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me is Gilbert Manzano. Gilbert, the Rams blow a 17 to 10 fourth quarter lead and lose 24 to 17 to the Steelers. Just give me your quick takeaways as to what went wrong today against the Steelers for the Rams.
Yeah, quick warning. I got the cat riled up somewhere over here. So if he makes an appearance, Benito, that means it was a bad performance by the Rams, and he has things to say. So that is what played out. That was a very head scratching game. The Rams were in it, but credit to the Steelers offense, which we were very critical of. Kenny Pickett stepped up. Every time I looked up, he was making a big time throw to George Pickens or Deontay Johnson, and having Deontay Johnson, we mentioned it, but we kind of overlooked it. That made a big difference for the Steelers' offense. So T.J. Watt had that big interception too. So it just felt like a game, Vic, that the Rams needed to do more, but couldn't do it. There he goes, making the appearance here, and then the fourth down conversion that they couldn't challenge because of the timeouts here. But that's how annoyed Benito is right now with this game. But go ahead, Vic, and take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the Rams take control of this game for three quarters, and you felt good going into the fourth, just because of what you saw last week. You're like, okay, things are looking up for the Rams. This is where you put it away now. And even going into the second half, you had the lead, and then you give up that interception, and I mean, just bad things continue to happen. I understand that it's going to be a growing pains with this team, and the Rams were in control, as we talked about, and the Steelers were under 200 yards of offense, Gilbert, in and then the defense allows them to score on back-to-back drives. I know people are going to point to those back-to-back penalty. Well, for those two bad calls by the refs. First, the PI on Witherspoon, which shouldn't have been a PI, but then they get bailed out by the taunting call. The refs do they negate that call with a what they call on Johnson, and then the bad spot on the sneak, as you pointed out. It was just a bad ending. And then to top it off, Gilbert, one more thing, just to 10 yards of offense for the Rams in the fourth quarter. That's not going to win you any games.
Yeah, no, like that's why before we started the show, I'm like, I don't really know what happened here because it was a 17-17 game, and yeah, the Steelers scored, but the Rams had many opportunities, and people are gonna dwell on that quarterback sneak, and the Rams couldn't challenge it, but they had many opportunities before. It was 24-17 for a bit in that fourth quarter, and I kept seeing the Rams, stalling with their offense there, and shout out to Puka Nacua. Every time I looked up, he was making a contested catch or a sideline catch. But you know, another thing we probably should have focused more on that when you lose Kyren Williams, your identity, offensively, that was going to hurt you against a very good Steelers defense. I know the Steelers defense hasn't been as great as they usually are, but it's the identity when you don't have the guy that you're leaning on. Let me give you the stats here. But Freeman, was okay, 12 carries, 66 yards. Henderson 18 for 61. So they were getting their yards, but it just felt like it wasn't like an impact. Like when Kyren Williams was running, he would control the game. And here's okay, who's hot, who's not. And then, so it felt like a little balance, but I felt like they were missing an element. I think Kyren Williams is the key there. But it is again, like I mentioned, a head scratching game because Puka was doing his thing, and Tutu Atwell had that one kind of lucky touchdown there as well too. So, like you mentioned before, it felt like a Steelers recipe for a win. And when you're playing into their hands of how to play their style of football, I don't care if they're on the road, they're still going to win 9 times out of 10 when it's playing their type of way.
Yeah, and now, I mean, the Steelers, coming off a bye under Mike Tomlin, are 8-0 now. They've won 8 in a row, so that tells you. But the what is frustrating, and it has to be for Ram fans, is the fact that you had this game within your grasp. You were in control of this game, and it felt like you just gave it away. I mean, 17 points, came off a turnover, two missed field goals. You just cannot win games like that. And it'll be interesting, Gilbert, because Brett Maher missed two field goals plus an extra point. It'll be interesting to see if he's on this team come Tuesday or Wednesday, because The one thing the reason you're a kicker in this league is if you're paid to make field goals, and when you don't make one, you miss two, and it's been a bad season for him so far. He's already missed seven on the season.
Oof.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But let me just give you, as you mentioned, some stats. I hope people took our advice and picked up Daryl Henderson on their fantasy team. I sure did, Gilbert. I picked him up everywhere because I knew that he was going to be one of the, especially when they got um in the red zone. I knew he was going to be the one that they went to. But Stafford, 14 of 29, 231 yards, one touchdown, one interception. I do want to say that there was a great one of the things that I did like about these two running backs outside of them running the ball was their blitz pickup. I mean, there was a great pickup by Henderson on a scramble where he got the first down. So that was good to see. And then, like you said, you mentioned the running backs, what they did. Cup had an uncharacteristic game for himself. He had two catches, but he also dropped two of them. He finished with two receptions for 29 yards. Nacua, great game, a reception, 154, and Adwell one reception for 31 yards and that touchdown.
Yeah, no, like I mentioned, I was, puzzled by how they just didn't score enough points in the fourth quarter. But then you reminded me about the Maher misses, so that's definitely going to hurt you when it's such a low scoring game there. And it's tough because, like you mentioned, Freeman and Henderson were fine, and that wasn't really an issue there. But I don't even want to pull up one of these comments here, but the offense just felt like a little out of sync. And I'll read it here for our Sir Randolph. Shout out to you. Face it, we have enough sample size. McVay's play calling has been stale since 2019. That's before the Super Bowl. We just had the talent to overcome in 21. Okay, all right. You know, I get the frustration, but when you're seeing Puka doing what he's doing, like that's obviously Puka's a great talent, but that's also putting him in right positions to succeed. So that's a credit to McVay as well. But it's been kind of the story, and I think what Ram fans gotta realize, like, this team kind of they lack talent and they're also young, and this felt like another game of growing pains because there were some costly flags in this game too. And then I was surprised that Deion Kendrick played, but he had a rough game too in the secondary. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, these guys were putting the work into the secondary, and we were bragging about this. Like, a lot of things that we were bragging about didn't happen. A lot of things we were overlooking occurred in this game. The Rams secondary really struggled against Pickett, and in the duo Pickett with Pickens and Deontay Johnson. It's always tough for me to say, but it's just one of these growing pains. And but also too, I get your frustration, Sir Randolph, because if Maher makes those kicks, you could probably win this game. If Stafford didn't throw an interception, you probably win this game. So it is kind of a little bit of everything. But when you lose Kyren Williams, that's a big part of your offense too. So it's tough to put all the blame on McVay, but I understand this season has been a little up and down. But you kind of expect that with a young roster, right, Vic?
Yeah, you do, and we said it was going to be growing pains with this team. These games are going to be frustrating, especially when you should have won this game. And this is what the Steelers do. This is why they're 4-2 right now. Like, two of their games that they've won was they just they stay around, and somehow Kenny Pickett bails them out with these. I don't even know what to call them anymore because he comes through for them.
This was
And
his best game of the season. Pickett like really had a game, I thought.
yeah, and you're right, but this is the way they win it. You get the defense sets them up, and then they score, and then they held the Rams in check in the second half outside of that touchdown that they scored, and that's why. And then I think the other thing that's got to be frustrating for Ram fans is seeing and it happens in every game at home, but just seeing the Steelers fans just make noise and take over the stadium. That's gonna happen. The Steelers are they not only travel well, they just live all over the country. They have a big fan base, so that's also a big thing for them. So
Yeah, that was
it's
pretty noticeable in the broadcast. I wasn't at the stadium today, but I kept hearing the crowd roar whenever it was Pickens catch, or it was a big play for TJ Watt. You see the terrible towels, waving. So that was definitely a factor, I thought.
And it's yeah, and it was, you could tell, like, you knew that the Fox broadcast kept pointing at it. And I know, there's like, oh, you can hear the Steeler fans, and I'm sure it annoys Ram fans, but that's part of it. It's a new stadium and people are going to sell their tickets. I know I saw some people commenting on how much the tickets were going for, and I don't blame, we've talked about this, Gilbert, I don't blame fans for selling their tickets. Get your money. I totally understand when it comes to that. I just wanted to highlight one player on defense that did. We've been very critical of him, so I want to make sure we give him his flowers, and that's Michael Hoyt. He had a great
Yeah.
first half. He had 2 sacks, yeah, and he led the team in tackles with 7. So I mean, he came to play, but outside of that, it was pretty hard to I was looking for players to step up. Witherspoon, that wasn't on him. That call, that was a
Yeah.
phantom call. I don't know where that pass interference was at, but outside of that, it's hard to give anybody any praise on that defense, Gilbert.
Yeah, it's sometimes just the way the game goes. Like we're trying to find answers here, and I'm still kind of lost for what happened. Besides, I'm gonna give credit to Kenny Pickett. They had the bye week. They played well, but yeah, when you get the missed field goals, you get the interception, you can't challenge because you lost challenges. You get the flag that you mentioned on Akilo Witherspoon, and you also don't get turnovers. Like sometimes, like when you have a young team, you just need breaks to go your way, and they kept going to the Steelers, and maybe sometimes you need Aaron Donald to wreck a game, and it hasn't occurred. So, when it's such a close game like that, you need something, you need more. But I know last year when they beat the Cardinals, they got 26 points, and the Rams offense was doing well. But let's be real, like the full sample size of the Rams offense, like they're not that great. Like they'll get you some yards with Puka and Cooper, and they'll get you some touchdowns, some Kyren Williams runs, stuff like that. But they're not going to be a high flying explosion, offense. And to get 17 points was a little bit of disappointment, but it kind of feels right for this Rams offense. So I think we look at it that way. It kind of feels like, okay, they don't get a break here. They're gonna get some growing pains, and you got to step up and make something happen. And again, every time they win a game, it's Kyren Williams. That is the identity, and they didn't have him today for the first time. And I get it. Royce Freeman, which I was surprised played so well, not so much with Henderson. I kind of expected that because he knows the offense, but they still got the rushing yard. They just felt like you needed an impact, and maybe that's what we're trying to search for here is an impact play, like a wild pick six or something. Puka didn't get any love from from the refs. Yeah, that's we could definitely point at the officials because it was a strange game when it comes to things like that, especially the Witherspoon one. I was scratching my head, and I probably maybe this Victor better than I do, but I was so confused about why they couldn't challenge on the fourth down. Then they brought it up that they ran out, and it wasn't even under 2 minutes. It was under 2 minutes. It was like 2:12:13. They would have got it. So from the actual review that upstairs, so it was just a tough break all around.
Yeah, you need to have a timeout in order to challenge it, because it was even Megan was asking me, she's like, well, what does that mean, and I'm like, well, that's because the if you need to have a timeout in order to throw the red flag, and it has to happen within. He's like, well, did he just manage his timeouts wrong? And I'm like, no, like, he's trying to get the ball back for his team at this point. And so, I understand him calling the timeouts. You don't know that it's gonna you're there, that they're gonna be short on a fourth and short play there. So why is he saving his timeouts? It's just, I'm not blaming, like I talked to you, Gilbert. This game did not come down to that play. The fact that the Rams had 10 yards of total offense in the fourth quarter, you
Yeah.
know, um, and like I said, you were in control of this game in the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, you allowed them to score. Or in the second half, you allowed them to score on back-to-back drives. That was the killer for the Rams.
Yeah, if you want to just make it simple, the fourth quarter is the perfect picture here because the Steelers scored two touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and like you mentioned, 10 yards for the Rams offensively. So they have two drives to get something going. We're all gonna, scream and cry about the flags and the officials, but the Rams had their opportunity, and I get it, not Kyren Williams, but you had a balanced attack. They if you look at the time possession, they controlled that too. So maybe it is on McVay not calling the right plays. Maybe it's on Stafford not pushing the ball down the field. I don't know, but when you allow 2 touchdowns to the Steelers in the fourth quarter and you only get 10 yards, I think that tells you what's going to happen in a one-score game.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around in this game, and I get it. It falls on McVay, because of what happened. But like I said, those 17 points are killer when you miss 2 field goals plus an extra point, and you turn the ball over, and then that sets up a touchdown for the Steelers. That's what I've said. It goes on everybody. Here's another one from the warm. Higby and Maher didn't do us any favors. Yeah, Higby dropped the pass
Yeah, I was
too.
gonna say that. I remember that. Was that like in the fourth quarter? When was that?
Yeah,
Because it
that
was one
was
down the
also,
seam.
yeah, down the seam. He missed that one as well. So I mean, it was just like I said, it's one of those head scratching games because you were in control for 3 quarters, and you're just like, okay, like, and that was the one where the play that where Higby missed the where he had the drop. That led to the Maher kick. So had he caught that ball, maybe you're in better field goal range as well. Maybe you score a touchdown there, and it puts the game away. So that was a big one too. So shout out to Warren because that's a good point there.
Yeah, and then it was just the Steelers day. Like even Najee Harris couldn't get going, and he had a decent game against the Rams. He had his first touchdown of the year. So when they have Kenny Pickett playing his best game of the season, Matt Canada calling good offensive plays, Najee Harris getting going, Deontay Johnson is back, George Pickens not a one man team anymore. So they were just due for a win, and it just goes back to the Rams' growing pains. And it's unfortunate because they would have came out of this 3-game homestand, 2-1, and you're going to Dallas. You're feeling confident now. Like you have a lot of pressure, 3-4. You're going to another team that's just coming off a bye week in the Cowboys. So we'll see what happens there. But it just feels like one that they let get away, and it's probably one they're gonna be thinking about for a long time.
Yeah, and now it puts pressure if you really want to make the playoffs. I think you need to, you're sitting now at 3-4 with 10 games to go. The How many wins do you need? You need 6 at least. That means you need to go 6-4 the rest of the way, Gilbert. You're gonna have if you have a shot at making the playoffs. And a lot of teams are starting to lose in the NFC, so you're gonna have a chance, but you need to get to at least 9 wins. You're gonna have to go 6-4 if I'm correct here, the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings right now, and obviously they're probably going to win the division because the 49ers are there, and then 2 wild card spots are probably going to go to the Seahawks and the Cowboys. That leaves you
Yep,
with one, and I'm looking at currently, and currently it's Tampa Bay at 3-3, so you can maybe steal the 7 seed there.
that's what it's
Maybe
gonna
win,
be.
maybe 9 wins. I don't know, but they're in the race for that. But you got to start stacking wins, and I know they kind of went through their hard part of the schedule, but the Cowboys are going to be very difficult to get by in Dallas after a bye week.
Yeah, and like I said, that's where you're gonna have to start looking at is some of those teams because somebody's gonna win that NFC South, and then you're just trying to look at teams who you might have to battle for that 7 seed at this point. You have teams like the Commanders, teams like who lost today, and
Yeah,
the
the Saints could
Falcons.
be in there.
Yeah, the Saints. And that's going to be the tough part. You're in a tough division yourself. You have another game with the Cardinals, you have another game with the Seahawks, but you still have to play the Niners one more time, and then you have to take care of business within the conference and then out of conference with some of those games that you have left. And hopefully you take care of business because you can't afford losses like this if you're planning to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough in Dallas. Then they have to go to Green Bay. Green Bay has been pretty bad this year, so you could probably win that. But that's in Green Bay, never easy. And then they have the bye week and they play Seattle. So If we're gonna look at it from a 3 game stretch, that's pretty difficult. And I get they beat Seattle once, but it's hard to do it again twice. So, but
And
I
they
don't
didn't
want to
look
make.
good today, Gilbert. They did not look good either.
Yeah, no, they didn't. But I still feel like for that game after you crush them in week one, they're gonna be ready. They won't overlook you for sure. So, I never like to go past more than 3 games, and we'll see how they do. But it's not easy. If you go 1-2, you beat the Packers, you lose to the Seahawks or and the Cowboys. We'll see. But they could go 2-1. I wouldn't be surprised to go 2-1. It could definitely be the Seattle. You could beat Seattle again. You could beat Green Bay. That Dallas one though, it's gonna be tough. But you never know. You've seen Dallas lose to the Cardinals. They got blown out by the 49ers, and the Rams play the 49ers much better. So who knows? Maybe it could be 3-0. We don't know. That's why you play the games. But this one's a pretty disappointing result for the Rams.
It is, and we're gonna give our final thoughts. It's just a head scratching game. That's the best way I can kind of break down this game, and it the Rams were in total control of this game, and you just let one get away. And I think that's the biggest frustration. And I think it's probably going to be the thing that you have to hold on to this season is the growing pains. They're going to be there. What you have. You have, you know, Cooper Cup. You have Matthew Stafford. You have Aaron Donald, and then you have a bunch of young guys, and it's going to come with frustration. And I think that's pretty much what we got today from this Rams team.
Yeah, I'm sure the worm is somewhere in Wisconsin having a drink and just so frustrated about the Rams. So, but
I wonder
good
if
for the.
he went. I wonder if he went to that bar that was giving out free drinks if the Jets lost.
I don't know. Let us know, worm. But yeah, Rams fans in Wisconsin, and I'm sure he did say he'll be at the Lambeau Field for that one. But first Dallas game, they got to get through, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, rough one. Kicker missing kicks, interception, missing your best running back. Couldn't get a game changing play. So frustrating loss all around.
All right. So who gets your 12 pack uh, of beer for this game,
Yeah,
Gilbert?
I think you might go Henderson. So I'll go with Puka. And I know a lot of people were like saying, "Oh, Puka's dumb because Cooper Cup is back," and I kept saying, "No, I think McVay knows that he has two really good wide receivers. Why would you just force feed one?" So it was definitely a Puka game here. And again, like I had to keep track of a bunch of other games, but I had my phone on the Rams game, and every time I looked over, it's Puka making a catch on the sideline, or that one catch, yeah, near the
Down the
sideline
sideline?
with the foot down, that was beautiful. And he had more than just that. Everything was contested in the sideline. Before it was kind of like he was making a lot of plays like inside to start out his fast career. Now he's making catches contested in the sideline. So that just shows you the versatility of Puka Nacua. So he had a game. He had a great start. Obviously, you wanted to see more from the entire offense in the fourth quarter, but still have yourself a tall can of Modelo Puka Nacua.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about this in a preview about did Puka Nacua save the Ram season, because I think if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be talking about the Rams, mm, making the playoffs. I think that once you lose Cooper Cup, I think he pretty much saved the season for the Rams, and now we're here, talking about a possibility of the Rams making the playoffs, and I think he probably did. And we'll talk more about it during the preview because I kind of want to get into it, especially as we reach the first half of the season. I think it's a good thing to talk about. Um, and I just want to say there was a couple of plays with him that kind of stood out to me. There should have been a pass interference that he didn't get with Joey Porter Jr. I thought he was draped all over him. There were some plays that he made. I think he's starting to get frustrated. I think teams are being a little physical and they're getting away with it. And I think he's starting to say, look, I know I'm a rookie, but I'm still making the plays and I'm not getting any love here. And so I wanted to make sure that we talked about it. We're not making any excuses about why it wasn't called. That's for the refs to decide. But I have seen the fact that teams are being a little bit more physical with him. And after he catches, they try to do some extracurricular stuff with him, and he's starting to get frustrated with it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what happened. Maybe that's why he also had a couple quiet games because they teams watch the tape, they make adjustments, and the true playmakers are the ones that make the adjustment after the adjustments from the defense. So he did it today, and that's also credit to Sean McVay. I'm not trying to make excuses for Sean McVay, but they're on the same page there, and it's not a stretch to say what you said, Victor, about him saving the Rams season. It could have easily been a lost season if they didn't find this guy in the draft here. So his play has given this team that's supposed to be inexperienced, lacking talent, a chance every single week. And unless I'm blanking, well, maybe the Bengals game, like they've been in mostly in every game this season. So, and that's because he's part of this new group and with the Rams. I know it's still Stafford and Cup, but it's a very different roster this year.
Yeah, and then just going back to Cooper Cup, and the whole Stafford thing that you said, because it reminded me hearing you talk about it, and I think when they got to halftime, they tried, feeding Cooper Cup, and I think that's what led to the interception. He keyed in on Cooper, and Watt read him. He got off his defender there and went for the interception. So that's another thing to kind of keep an eye on. I think, and it'll come. This is only their third game together. I think we're still waiting for that game where they both
Yeah.
they blow up. So one final comment here from the one of my receivers are the bright spot this season. Puka is showing us that he's a great football player, period. And he's right. That's the truth. And then for me, Gilbert, just to finish things off here for our 12 pack, you are right. I'm gonna go with Daryl Henderson. He on for being here in less than a week, kind of like what we saw last year with from Baker Mayfield. He did a great job. He scored a touchdown. He had some great runs there, and he picked up two key blocks that I thought, that was the most important thing for me was how, you need a running back who can pick up um, pass rushers and blitzes, and he did a great. I thought he did a great job. So for me, he gets my 12 pack of beer even in a losing effort.
Yeah, I know we both picked the Rams to beat the Steelers. We were obviously wrong, but we also pointed to Daryl Henderson being the main guy when it comes to fantasy football purposes because, like you mentioned, he could block, he knows the offense, and I know people were disappointed how his career turned out the first time with the Rams because I think he was like a second or third round pick, and he didn't really become a lead back, but he was always good enough for goal line, 50 to 60 yards, kind of like the game he had today, right?
Yep. Yeah, and so that's pretty much all we have for you guys. Thank you for listening, for watching on YouTube. Gilbert, what can people or what do you have working at SI that people can check out after they watch this video?
Yeah, maybe you don't want to check out one of my stories because I give Kenny Pickett a lot of praise because I've been very critical of Kenny Pickett, and when I'm wrong, I make sure to tell people. I am not one of those people that hides from my losses. So I like to brag about my wins, but those have been very few in the last couple of weeks. So I have a 5 things we learned story that came up, and shout out to you. I was wrong about the Raiders coming up big against Tyson Bagnet. I should probably get his name right,
Yeah.
but yeah, I pretty much do a whole landscape of the what's going on in week 7 on the NFL. So I have 2 stories up right now. Check them out at shi.com. And then I'm about to watch the showdown between the Dolphins and the Eagles.
Yeah, I feel like we're all excited for this matchup coming up tonight. And after seeing that Lions and
Oh.
Ravens game, I'm just thinking it's not gonna live up to the hype. I hope I'm wrong, but it's been just a weird season, Gilbert. Like every time we think we know this league, it just is like ha ha ha. Look what I'm gonna just change everything for you and prove you
Patriots
wrong.
beating the Bills was
There you
definitely one
go.
of those. So
So, I mean, it's been that kind of a season. We Everybody thought the Rams were not going to be good this season, and so far they've just been right in the middle. So they've been better than people expected. But another tough loss for the Rams, 24-17 to the Steelers. But we're glad to be here to break down this matchup for you guys. We'll be back on Wednesday to preview that matchup that we talked about between the Cowboys and the Rams. Another team, as you mentioned, Gilbert, coming off a bye. It seems like every team that they're facing now is coming off a bye. So we'll see. We'll preview that. Make sure you go and check out Gilbert's work. He's at G Manzano 24 on Twitter. I'm still gonna call it Twitter, Gilbert. I, I'm so used to it. I don't like calling it X, but yeah, you know,
You,
unfortunately, tough loss for the Rams.
you might need to start saying TikTok because I'm more active on TikTok now that I
There
am
you
on
go.
X. So yeah, same thing. G Manzano 24 on TikTok. But yeah, we'll see. I watched the Cowboys closely when they played the Chargers, so we have a nice preview for you coming up. And then we'll make it official, the giveaway, because it was a sensational performance for the rookie that we'll make official come Wednesday. And don't worry, the ones that have been participating in the Easter egg hunt, you have a big advantage to win this jersey. But the whole point is to get us to 1,000 subscribers. Please help us get there. If you're first time watching this recap episode, maybe you're a Steelers fan, just watch because just subscribe because your team won, and do everybody a favor and get us to 1,000.
There you go, guys. And one last shout out from the Worms. He says, "Thank you, guys. Hey, thank you for watching and listening because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this." So, Gilbert, that's it. I know you got to go watch this game, so go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, tough loss, but it's always next week, and it's been a fun ride so far. And we're not even halfway yet. So, Rams fans, cheer up. The Worm, have a drink somewhere in Green Bay or Wisconsin, wherever you are. But everybody else, and having a best possible rest of the Sunday for evening. But on that note, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.